prepare yourselves. If you know you're an awkward person, practice in the mirror. Then you have to be willing to be candid. This is your wedding. Like, why are we catering to people? And you've paid for it. Welcome back to Black Tie Optional. I'm Sydney.
I'm Colleen.
Let's get into it.
I'm excited for this episode.
Same. This is one I think that we've talked about for a minute. Like, hey, we need to put that on the podcast.
Well, it's kind of hard, like what we're going to talk about, because there's so many variants.
I agree. Like, within each thing, there's so many variants.
Right. Like, so many. Yeah. Anyway, so let's just dive right in.
Okay. So today we're going to be talking about different photo and video editing styles, as well as shooting styles, and like when you're picking your photographer versus like the venue that you picked. So it's just a lot of things.
So like it's so like you said, so many different layers to it, everything.
Exactly. So I guess let's start with like editing styles first, just because I feel like that's the one that's the most commonly talked about. So in terms of coloring, I would say there's like a good 3 that most people know. Light and airy,
Okay.
dark and moody, true to color.
Yes, I agree
And then there's kind of like some people that do like filmy, warm, retro-y vibes. And then there's people kind of like me that are like vibrant, punchy, most of the time still kind of true to life, but colorful, I guess.
Right. Well, because even like some light and airy, there's so many different light and airies.
Yes. So like I will say most commonly when you think light and airy, lots of white, very dull blacks.
Not like your contrast is
Very minimal, like non-existent actually.
right.
And then like dark and moody, you're thinking like darker images, a lot of black, not a whole lot of white. The images, I will say most of the time, I don't want to say flat, that's not the right word, but like the whites are pulled all the way down. And then true to color, obviously, is true to color.
Right. And like when we're talking about this, I don't want you guys to be like, one is more superior.
No.
Or like, this is wrong. This is right. Like we're not picking and choosing what's right, what's wrong, because there is no right and wrong.
Right.
It's all preference. Each couple is different. And each photographer, videographer, everyone is so different.
Right.
And let's just address the elephant in the room. Everything is different for even every photographer and videographer, because
yes, light is so different. Okay, so for example, and this is just like a minor spiel, so y'all just like hang tight. I edit true to color, but it's a little bit more vibrant. So like things are very colorful. I don't really mute colors a whole lot. If I shoot and it's sunshiny, golden hour, those pictures are naturally warmer because sunsets are pretty warm versus like a cloudy day. It's bluer, you know, you're not having warmth, you're not having, you know, all these other things. And so my editing style, I think, can look very different across the board. Like, because I just edit how the light looks. I edit, you know what I'm saying?
What happened in that moment.
Exactly.
Is it a rainy, foggy day? Is it no cloud in the sky day?
Right.
And while we can control some things, that is one thing we cannot control.
Exactly. So I, for instance, had a bride that was going to hire me. And because I posted photos where it was rainy outside, she ended up canceling contract the whole 9 because those photos weren't warm. And that's out of my control because I can't control the weather.
And there's pros and cons to that. Like we had a wedding that it was a rainy day, but it luckily like rained in the morning and then was just pretty overcast, you know, the rest of the day. So we were able to still do stuff outside. And it was nice because we were not fighting the sun.
Yep.
But on the flip side, your coloring is going to be just a tad different.
Yep.
Your lighting is going to be a tad different. Even though we adjust our settings, like it's different than a sunny day.
Exactly.
So,
and it's just like stepping into, okay, so say you're getting married, you're hiring a photographer. You love light and airy. You love brighter photos, lighter images, but then you book a dark industrial building or a dark barn that doesn't have windows, well, then you're not really going to get light and airy photos, if that makes sense.
No, because no, you're just not.
Or in the same sentence, you want dark and moody, you want these romantic, sexy photos, but then you book an all white venue.
Right.
Like, where's the moody going to come in?
So I think our biggest takeaway is know your venue and what your style is, what your vibe is. Because again, there is no right or wrong. If you like moody or if you like what light and airy, like there's no, but don't book a barn that's orange if you want
White, pure white
right,
photos.
exactly.
Because
So
it's just colors reflect. I mean, I could go on a whole thing about light and everything.
set yourself up for success.
Exactly, exactly. Okay, so now that we've kind of talked a little bit about coloring, now we're going to dive into shooting styles. I would say the big two, in my opinion, are documentary and editorial. Documentary is documenting what is happening. They're like fly on the wall. They may step in and pose you for, say, like couples photos and stuff like that. But there are even some documentary style photographers that they don't pose at all. Not during whole wedding party,
You get what
nothing. You get what you get. So if you just want photos of you standing there looking at your girls and talking, I mean, that's kind of like, that's true documentary.
and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all.
But if you want your smiling posed pictures,
Looking at the camera, super cheesy, happy.
make sure you communicate that or you find someone who does that.
Exactly, because there are some people that classify themselves as documentary and they're totally hands off. Versus me, I would consider myself to be more documentary, but I will pose you. I am going to set you up and tell you what to do, kind of thing. But then in terms where documenting comes in, like ceremony, where nobody's directing, I'm documenting what is happening.
Right. So and again, just like in colors, there's different levels, different in the spectrum. Like,
Yes.
and that's something that when you're having your first call with, the vendor that you're thinking about booking, like these are all valid questions
Yeah,
to
please
ask.
ask questions. I love when people ask me questions. I want to communicate and be totally clear and upfront and honest and set realistic expectations for things.
Absolutely.
And then on the total opposite spectrum, you have people that are editorial. So super posy. We're going to be looking out the window the whole time. You know what I'm saying?
More,
Serious.
honestly, I think of editorials more like serious
Not a whole lot of like
emotion.
No, it's very posy. Think Vogue, think model, think high end. I mean, a lot of the time editorial, you're thinking like high fashion, things like that. So I would say those are the two kind of shooting styles. So one thing that I think we've both have encountered is, say, we're pretty both documentary, I would say.
yeah.
We're not editorial at all. So when we are working with, for me, say video, somebody that's very editorial, not storytelling at all, we have conflicting styles, which means either one of us is going to be successful and the other one's not, and capturing what we truly do.
So, okay, like you were saying, I would definitely classify us more as documentary.
Yeah.
Because I want to tell your story.
Yep.
I want to tell how your wedding day went. And so sometimes when couples will be like, oh, well, we're not going to do this. Is this going to ruin anything for you? And I'm like, no, I want to tell your story how it went. Like,
Exactly.
I'm not, I mean, I'm creating a story, but I'm not making up a story.
Exactly.
And we've worked with photographers who their work is gorgeous.
Yep.
I love it. It's published in Vogue for a reason, but it can be hard or trickier on a wedding day whenever it's, like you said, looking out the window with a serious face. That translates so well in a magazine. That looks so good. That's like,
Yep.
wow, he looks sharp. Or,
Yes.
whatever. But then maybe on my end for video, if I capture that same shot,
Mm-hmm.
he looks not excited to walk down the aisle.
He's mad looking out the window.
Because I'm capturing more of that emotion. I'm not capturing the glimpse in the day. I'm capturing the emotion. But how on the flip side, we encounter a lot of more like editorial photographers that we work with.
Right.
When they're still in that same pose as a videographer, I let the photographer get the shot and I'll be like, quickly be like, hey, can you look out the same pose, look out the window and like kind of crack a little smile, like you're so excited to be going to see your bride. Like that's how
Yes.
I can actively work together.
Yep.
We're accomplishing the same goal. I'm getting what I need. They're getting what they need because it is what it is. And
Yep.
sometimes,
You're going to work with people that your styles are not the same. And
and
we
that's
we
fine.
still have a job that we have to do.
We have to, a job we have to do. And sometimes I have to think, I'm like, well, this is why it's so important to communicate, communicate, communicate. I know like we're on a broken record about that, but if I've communicated with my couple about what's important to them, I kind of gauge maybe editorial is more important to them and they want a more serious wedding
Video.
film.
Yep.
Like what do they want? And also maybe I'm not going to do these crazy fun prompts in a couple's time because that's not what they want. They
Exactly.
don't want to be going in and kissing and going out and lovey-dovey. Like they
Right.
don't want that. That's not their style. That's not what they're craving.
Right.
So I'm not, that would be super awkward if I'm like, do airplane arm, like that
Yes.
would be so weird if I'm trying to get them to be a couple that they're not. So that's why I need to bend and be flexible and be able to not create different styles, but I need to be able to
Adapt.
and work with my couple.
And then in the same breath, though, like when I personally have couples that reach out and they're like, we love you because of you're candid,
Mm-hmm.
then you have to be willing to be candid.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot tell you the times that people are like, oh, I love that you capture people laughing and smiling together. Then we show up for even an engagement session and they can't even interact together and it's awkward and I get that. Like some people it's not easy for them to love out loud, but the thing about photography is like we can ask you to do things all day long, but we cannot be you and make you be flirty together and laughy together. And so if you're wanting a candid photographer, then just know
You have to show up.
you have to show up. You have to put into that effort because if not, then you get very posy, more editorial. If I'm saying, okay, you guys stand together, face each other, you guys look at each other, and you're just looking.
Which I'll be completely honest, like I feel like that's Zach and I. Like we're not.
No, no offense. I love y'all to death.
No, but like that's like we're not like. I'm also
Oh,
like
you're so cute.
yeah, we're not like that. That's just
No.
not us, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But that's why I appreciate if we're like doing family portrait or something. I'll be like, just tell us what to do.
Yes.
Like let's get it done.
Yes.
Like I'm okay. I don't need a moment. Like just tell me what to do.
Exactly. Exactly. So
to each his own.
to each their own. But just know if you're wanting smiley, candid photos, then you are going to have to show up. Make your fiance practice with you,
Yeah.
even if they don't like photos. Like, prepare yourselves. If you know you're an awkward person, practice in the
Oh my
mirror.
gosh. And so we actually had a couple that same situation. He was not comfortable in front of the camera. She did 3 engagement sessions with him from the time they got engaged to the time they were married. And do you know when they got married? Perfect. They were like models
Right.
because they, you warm up. And even in a wedding day, I find that people are like not tense, but more tense in the beginning.
Yep.
And then as the time goes on, they're more comfortable. Like they're comfortable with being in front
Right.
of the camera. So if you only schedule 15 minutes for a couple session, you're like finally warmed up and it's time to move on.
Exactly. And I mean, even for me personally, like when I do engagement sessions, like I say an hour, normally it's an hour and a half to 2 hours, just because by the time, like you said, you get to the end, people are more comfortable and things like that. So, another thing that I will say is when you go to hire a photographer and say their whole Instagram looks cohesive, beautiful, awesome. But like we were saying earlier, if it's cloudy outside, coloring could look different. So when you're hiring photo, video, whatever, I personally, when people inquire, I will send a rainy day album, a foggy album, sunshiny. Like I want people to see my work all across the board and be like, I love it and I'm going to book her no matter what kind of thing.
Honestly, because Instagram is
A fraction.
a fraction, especially with photography. With videography, we create like highlight reels. It's not a full wedding day, but might see 2 clips of that person's whole wedding day, and it might be like
Yes.
very tiny, like their details or something. You
Right.
get what I'm saying? So like you need to see, like you said, is it cloud? If your wedding day is cloudy,
Right.
if it's rainy, like you need to see that. So I think that's a great, just to like, hey, here's my work. You like me or you don't.
Exactly. I mean, Instagram, you can post what, 10 pictures? I mean, I know if you use apps like Scroll or whatever, you can have maybe 20. That's a lot, but you're seeing 20 pictures out of, I mean, for me, my galleries average anywhere from 600 to 1,000 images, so you're getting a literal grain of sand of a
Right.
glimpse.
And I know most photographers and videographers, we probably don't post every wedding that we do,
No, exactly.
mainly because I just forget to post, and it's like, oh, it's 8:30. I've already missed the window.
Yes, exactly. The algorithm. But it's so funny. As a photographer, like, I highly encourage people, if you feel like changing editing styles, freaking do it. If you're passionate about how pictures look a certain way and it's totally different than what you're doing now, you can change styles. People rebrand. Prior to COVID, LOL, was very moody, dark, pinky tones. And then now I'm like vibrant, super colorful. So that's just one other thing I kind of want to touch on, just because I know so many photographers feel like they're like pigeonholed into doing one
I
thing.
was gonna say, like, what is it? Ankle chained to your ankle or
Yes.
whatever.
Yes. And like me, when I deliver, I will also throw in like some filmy, like vintagey vibes and stuff like that because I want to, because it's my business and I can do what I want to do.
Yeah.
So just never feel
I
pigeonholed.
mean, like you can't feel pigeonholed, and at the same token, you couldn't be like light and airy photographer and then tomorrow
No.
change to moody, and now your couples that book
No.
you for light and airy are screwed.
Right. You can't
You
do
have
that.
to like drift.
Yeah, you have to transition slowly. And I think too, like a lot of people that I've seen that have done rebrands, like they will continue to shoot whatever weddings they have booked in their light and airy style. They'll continue.
Yeah.
But then kind of transition. So,
hey guys, just wanted to take a brief pause in the episode to tell you thank you for supporting our podcast. It would mean the world to us if you could subscribe to whatever platform you are listening on. Let's get back to the episode.
So talking about Reddit, one thing I was trying to like research like editing styles and what people had to say about them, and I just really loved this. It says, here's what nobody tells you. Your style is revealed via volume, meaning that you need to shoot and then shoot some more. Over time, you'll start to recognize patterns in your work. You'll see reoccurring themes or angles or tones that define what you do. It takes thousands upon thousands of photos to start getting there. And I cannot emphasize that enough. I feel like so many people that are dipping their toes into photo, they're like, I don't know how to find my style. I don't know what to do. And it's one of those things that I feel like develops over time. I mean, wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. It develops over time. But if you look on Pinterest or you look on Instagram and then you're trying to mimic someone else's style that took them a long time to get to it, you're either going to hate it.
Yep.
And then now you're stuck because
Right.
you've like
Pigeonholed.
Right. And yeah, I just feel like then you're like start to feel imposter syndrome and all these
Yes.
things. So it's, I don't know, like give yourself grace to develop
Exactly.
like a flower.
Yes. Well, it comes with time. I
Yeah.
mean, and I would like to say, I feel like it's ever evolving.
Right.
Like when you upgrade gear, you get a new camera, that coloring is not going to be the same as the old one. I just went on a whole thing dealing with this for like the last 8 months because I transitioned from DSLR to mirrorless.
And that was in the same brand. Like
Yes,
imagine if
both
you went
Nikon.
well, imagine if you went Sony to Canon or Canon to Nikon or like all these different things, because like I'll talk to people who are like diehard Canon people,
Yep.
and then they go shoot on a Sony and they're like, these colors are crap.
Right.
Or like, because they're not used to it,
Exactly.
or diehard Sony people and they go to whatever,
Yes.
each camera brand is different too.
Yes. So that's another thing. Just know that like things are always going to be evolving.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you brought up imposter syndrome. So Colleen, do you ever deal with imposter syndrome?
Absolutely.
I think we all do.
Yeah. I feel
I
like
think
that's like natural. If you say you don't, you
You're
really
lying.
do.
You're lying. We all know. So like what are some ways that you help
To be like completely honest, not watching wedding films. So like for me, like I can ooh and ah over photography because I'm not into photography. But if I am like watching other people's wedding films, which I mean, maybe sure, it's good to like see what's out there, see what's new style, you know.
Whatever, yeah.
But I don't know. I'll start to compare it to my
Yep.
naturally. I'm not like, let me write footnotes, but I'm really like, their work is so amazing. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
I just compare it. So honestly, like if you look at my feed, I follow so many photographers and I like follow no videographers.
Well, and I started unfollowing people that were near me. And I know that sounds bad. Like I have friends that are in the industry and obviously I follow them. But like people that I've never really met before, even though I want to be supportive, I can't look at other people's work. And solely because I will notice when I edit, I start to do something different. Like, and
Hmm.
it's just from looking at other people's work. So if I like stay in my own lane, don't look at other people. I don't worry about what anybody else is doing. And I tell myself, people hired me because they like my work. They like what I'm doing. I
It's
need to
like
keep doing what I'm doing. Do you see me doing this?
it's
Can
like
you tell?
you can you can do
Yes,
it.
you can do it. You can
Yeah.
do it. I have to do that all the time.
No, literally just had this happen. Because I do all of our editing and Zach like doesn't.
Yeah.
Lucky
Must be
him.
nice.
And I will fall into this trap because like let's say I'm working with a photographer that I'm like, they are amazing. They are like, wow.
The
I'm like,
best.
cannot believe I'm
Working.
working with this person.
Yes.
So then immediately I will look at their work and let's say their work is like brighter than mine or light and airy or, you know, like whatever. And then I start to question myself and I'm like, was this what my couple wants?
Right.
And like as video, which is so different than photo. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they don't like my work. Like, not really that terrible, but you know what? I'll be like, so then I will be stuck editing like a sneak peek, for example. And I
Mm-hmm.
will just be like going round and round and round. And Zach will come in the room and he's like, what are you doing? And I was like, I don't know. I'm just like really struggling. Like, and I'll like tell him my thought process behind this. And he's like, Colleen, they hired you for your work. They saw your work. They liked your work. Do not change.
Yep.
Do not conform just because, you know, and
It's a real thing.
it
Or
truly
you
is.
see these people that have 60,000 followers or 100,000 followers, and you're like, I want what they have, so I need to be doing this to get to this point. And that is not it at all.
No.
Like, they probably got to that point because they stayed in their own lane and did
Mhm.
their own thing and did not pay attention to anybody else.
Oh, I can give such a good example if we have time.
Yeah, go.
16. Okay, a great example of this is not color wise, but like for video, I
Hmm.
feel like I'm definitely more like maybe like cinematic, a little bit slower. Like we still have like normal things happening in there with storytelling, but I will watch these wedding films that like win awards, right? And
Right.
they're like so fast you can't keep up with it. Do you know what I
Yes.
mean? And I
Yes.
am not saying there's anything wrong with that.
Right.
It's beautiful. And like I watch that and I'm like, that was a masterpiece.
Yeah.
But it's not my style. I have tried to make myself like, let's make a
Upbeat.
yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I hate it. It's
Right.
not it's and I don't hate it when I watch their work, but I don't like it. And
Right.
that's just not my style, but so it's like either I can stick with my style and I can like it, or I can try to be like other people's styles and hate it. And it's miserable editing.
No, exactly. Exactly. It's one of those things that never goes away. It does not matter how long you've been doing this. It's always going to creep back in. It's going to be like the little person looking at you around the corner. For real. Just know you're not alone if you're dealing with that.
Yeah, I
We
think that's
all
so
deal with
natural.
it. And like I said, I'm sure even the most successful people
Hmm.
deal with that too.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm on Reddit. My literal favorite Reddit, whatever it's called, is Am I the Asshole? I don't know if y'all
Do
are
you
ever.
watch their TikToks?
No, I should though.
I think they have a podcast.
Do they?
I do. I think I always see their like clips of their podcast. But am I?
Okay.
I love it. Okay,
So
I'm so
here we
excited.
go.
Tell me.
I, female 27, am marrying my fiance, female 26, next October. We've had a very long engagement, 3 years now, because we were paying for our wedding ourselves. And we wanted to take time to save up enough money to have the wedding of our dreams. I know that the wedding isn't everything, of course, and we are both so excited to be getting married regardless, but we figure since we only plan on doing this once, may as well go all out. Now, my fiance and I both work in animal sciences and have always had a taste for, don't know what that is. Macabre.
Macberry?
I have no idea. If y'all know what that means, just, I know. English wasn't my strong suit. We've planned our wedding to have a sort of dark nature theme. Our ideal decor includes lots of moss, mushrooms, dark flowers, even the occasional antler or skull. Ethically sourced, of course. That's part of what makes them so expensive, but we refuse to compromise on that. My dress is black, and I plan to walk down the aisle to Hoser's. I think that's how you say it.
Yeah.
Like real people do, which I love him. His music's so ethereal. We've booked a venue in a nearby national park. Plan to have a ceremony deep in the forest with a reception at a nearby pavilion. I'm digging this. Hire me as your photographer. Of course, my fiance and I acknowledge that our taste is weird and not what most people would do for a wedding, but we've talked long and hard about it, and this is what we want, which I love it. I love it. Our friends are all excited with us, but the issue comes from both of our mothers. I'm the only daughter in my family, and my fiance is the only child in hers. So our mothers have been excited to plan their perfect wedding. We see this all the time. That's why we're rolling this. Unfortunately, they disapprove of almost every decision we've picked, and it has caused quite a few arguments. My fiance's mother has gone as far as to call my fiance crying about how she's ruining her only chance to plan her daughter's perfect wedding. Now, our theme is important to us, but not as important as our families. Our friends have encouraged us to not back down and stick up for what we want, but neither of us want miserable mothers. So, if I tell the collective moms that this is what we've decided on, would it be easier just to change a few things?
But wait, in the beginning of the blurb, it literally said they've been engaged for 3 years because they've been saving up to pay for their own wedding, right?
Yes.
Problem solved. They paid for their own wedding.
I know. I know. I'm just like so confused. But I get like you don't want to disappoint your family, but it's your wedding
that you're paying for. I need
like a giant, can we make a poster board? This is your wedding. Like, why are we catering to people? And you've paid for it.
I draw the line at they paid for the wedding. Like, if you paid for it, you do what you want to do. Now, I still find it hard whenever people hold things over your head if they paid for it. Like, let's say the moms are paying for it. I mean, you have to be considerate. They're paying a lot of money. Like, I get that. But if you're having to completely compromise, then
as a mother, though, you should support your child.
I mean, 100%. 100%. But yeah, that's so crazy.
That's hard.
That's hard to put them in a weird spot. I almost would be like, you know what, moms? We love you guys. This is our wedding. We're paying for it. We
really want you there.
Right. You host a reception and it is decked out how you want it.
There you go.
You pick the cake. I will show up.
Right.
And it's your day. Because essentially that's what the moms are trying to make it is their day.
Exactly. So that's crazy.
That's crazy.
But we see it all the time. I mean, let's be honest.
No, I know.
Especially if money is involved, like you were saying. Like, a lot of the times, like, moms give their opinion, and that's great. Like, as a mother, when my children get married one day, especially because I'm in the industry, I'm going to have a lot to say. Right. But am I going to dictate? No. Because at the end of the day, this is not my wedding. I want my children to be happy. You know what I mean?
I think about that all the time of, like, because I have kids, and I'm like, I don't want to tell my kids how to raise their kids.
Exactly.
Like, it's the same kind of idea.
It is. It is. It really is. You want your kids to be happy. You want them to be their own people. You want them. I mean, they're paying for their own wedding. That's huge. Most parents have to be financially responsible for that. Exactly. So at that point, as a mom, I would be like, you go. You want to get married in a black dress in the woods? Let's go.
Right. Yeah.
Sounds cool, honestly. I want to go. Am I invited?
It does. It sounds cool. And yeah, that's just so hard when like families put ultimatums and
no ultimatums. We have decided we're going to do an entire episode coming soon about dealing with family conflict on a wedding day. So
it can be super awkward. Honestly.
It can. It really can. So if you are a parent and you're listening, please support your children. Even if you think they're making the wrong choice for whatever it is in terms of their wedding stuff, just try to be supportive because, the goal is to always only do this once. So you really want them to have what they want. You want them
Right.
to
You
be
don't want
happy.
them to look back and be like, I regret that.
Right.
I shouldn't have listened to you. Or
yes.
have resentment or bitterness. Or
Exactly.
they're not going to be better if you support them.
Exactly.
Like, they're not going to look back and be like, I wish my mom wouldn't have supported me.
Right. Right. Okay.
I think that's it for this episode.
I think that's it. Well, thank you guys for being here.
Absolutely. We hope you have enjoyed the podcast so far, enjoyed some of the guests coming on. We are stoked to just keep going. See you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
We just want to say a big thank you for all of your support on our podcast. We are so excited to wrap up season 1 and head into season 2. We are taking a short summer break and will drop season 2 starting July 24th with some amazing guests. In the meantime, check out our social media and comment things you want to hear for season 2. See you next time.